The sky over the Mojave Desert is never truly empty, but today it felt haunted. High above the altitude where commercial airliners leave their white scars, across the blue something was moving. It didn't roar like the F-15S of the past, it didn't even whistle. It was a ghost in the machine, a ripple in the heat haze, that defied every law of physics we were taught to respect. The F-47 does not merely fly, it occupies the air with a predatory silence. For decades the narrative was settled. You could have a ghost, or you could have a lightning bolt. You could not have both. If you wanted to remain invisible to the prying eyes of enemy radar, you had to accept the limitations of stealth coating, fragile temperamental materials that would peel and char like burnt paper if pushed past the thermal barrier of 250 degrees Celsius. Speed was the enemy of silence. But as the sun dipped toward the horizon, in 2020, those rules were quietly gathered up and shredded in a secure facility in St. Louis. The aircraft accelerating past Mach 2 today isn't just a machine. It is the manifestation of a decade of quiet desperation and brilliant defiance. While the world watched the F-35 struggle through its growing pains, Boeing and the Air Force's Rapid Capabilities Office were playing a deeper game. They were looking at a future where China's J-36 fighters and integrated air defense nets were designed to turn the Pacific into a no-go zone for American wings. The response was not an evolution, it was a leap into the void. To understand the F-47, one must first understand the agony of the maintenance hangar. Imagine a team of technicians hunched over the skin of an F-22 Raptor after a high-speed sortie. They are working with tape and caulk, meticulously repairing the radar-absorbent skin that the friction of the atmosphere has tried to strip away. It is a slow, expensive and fragile way to wage war. The F-47 ended that era with a breakthrough from the laboratories of North Carolina State University. They stopped thinking of stealth as a coating and started thinking of it as a DNA. The materials that swallow radar waves are now baked into the very composite skin of the fuselage. It is a seamless obsidian surface that doesn't just endure the heat of Mach 2, it thrives in it. As the air friction climbs and the temperature rises, the molecular structure of this baked-in stealth actually becomes more efficient at dissipating electromagnetic energy. The engineers didn't just find a way to survive the fire, they found a way to use the fire to hide. But heat is a telltale sign in a world of infrared sensors. Even if a radar can't see you, your engines are a screaming beacon against the cold backdrop of the stratosphere. The F-47 breathes differently than any jet before it. Inside its frame lies a liquid cooling network, a labyrinth of capillaries carrying heat away from the leading edges and the avionics bay, dumping it into the fuel or masking it through advanced exhaust mixers. When you watch the renderings, you see a shape that feels alien. There are no vertical tails to catch a radar beam, no sharp angles to reflect a signal back to a surface-to-air missile battery. It is a blended wing, a smooth continuous curve that looks more like a shadow than a weapon. There were decoys, of course. Official images released to the public showed canard, small forward wings that sent foreign intelligence agencies into a frenzy of analysis. It was a masterclass in misdirection. The real aircraft, the one currently slicing through the thin air at 60,000 feet, is far cleaner, far more lethal. The commander in the cockpit isn't just a pilot anymore. In the old days, a dogfight was a matter of stick and rudder of a man pushing his body to 9 Gs while trying to keep his eyes on a shimmering dot in the distance. That world is gone. The pilot of an F-47 is a quarterback. Behind the visor of the helmet, an AI-driven interface is processing a flood of data that would shatter a human mind if presented raw. It takes the radar returns from the jet's own nose, the infrared data from a satellite orbiting hundreds of miles above, and the electronic sniffs from a carrier strike group over the horizon. It fuses them into a single crystalline picture of the battlefield. And then there are the loyal wingmen. Flying in a tight invisible formation around the F-47 are 4 to 8 autonomous drones, the collaborative combat aircraft. These are not small expendable toys. They are full-sized combat machines carrying the missiles, the jammers, and the sensors that the F-47 directs. Imagine a Chinese radar operator in the South China Sea. He sees nothing. Then suddenly his screens are flooded with false returns, his communications are choked with static, and a flurry of missiles is launched from 3 different directions simultaneously. He is fighting a ghost that has many hands. He aims for one only to find it was a drone, while the true predator, the F-47, remains miles away, untouchable, orchestrating the slaughter with machine precision. The pilot isn't fighting the enemy. The pilot is managing the AI that is fighting the enemy. It is a terrifying shift in the philosophy of conflict. It is no longer about who has the bravest pilot, but who has the most sophisticated architecture of digital violence. The heart of this architecture is the engine, the adaptive cycle power plant. For a century, jet engines were a compromise. You could have the fuel-sipping endurance needed to cross the vast lonely stretches of the Pacific, or you could have the raw bone-shaking thrust needed to outmaneuver an interceptor. You could never have both in the same mission. The XA-102 and XA-103 engines changed that. They possess a third stream of air. While cruising, they behave like the engines on a commercial airliner, squeezing every mile out of every drop of fuel, giving the F-47 a combat radius that pushes past 1,000 nautical miles. But when the quarterback sees a threat, the engine physically reconfigures its internal geometry. The third stream closes the bypass shifts and the engine transforms into a high-performance racing heart capable of sustained supersonic flight without the need for fuel-gulping afterburners. This is the solution to the tyranny of distance. China's strategy has always been to keep American carriers far from their shores, using long-range carrier-killer missiles to create a buffer. The F-47 ignores that buffer. It can launch from bases deep in the second island chain, fly for hours in total silence, strike with a swarm of drones, and return before the enemy even knows the air was contested. And it does all this while generating enough electricity to power a small city. This isn't just for the computers, it's for the future. The F-47 isn't just carrying missiles in its base. It is built to carry light, directed energy weapons, lasers that can swat incoming missiles out of the sky at the speed of light, fueled by the massive power output of these new engines. The era of running out of ammo is nearing its end. As long as the F-47 has fuel to run its engines, it has the bullets of the 21st century. We were told this was impossible. We were told that the cost would be too high, the technology too complex, the timeline too long. But while the debates raged in the halls of Congress, the metal was already being cut. The first production F-47s are on the assembly lines now. The secret tests of 2020 have become the operational reality of 2026. The Pacific is no longer a no-go zone. It is a playground for a ghost that refuses to be seen. But as the first 1,000-word chapter of this digital ghost story concludes, a chilling realization settles over the strategic landscape. The F-47 is not just a triumph of engineering. It is a profound disruption of the human element in warfare. Behind the closed doors of the Pentagon's skunkworks-style environments, the conversation has shifted from "can we build it?" to "can we control it?" The pilot, now a supervisor of an autonomous swarm, exists in a state of hyper-reality. They are no longer feeling the air through the seat of their pants. They are observing a digital simulation of death curated by an algorithm that thinks 1,000,000 times faster than they do. The moral weight of a 1,000-mile-per-hour decision now rests on a foundation of code. As the production lines in Missouri hum with the assembly of the next batch of airframes, the world stands at a precipice. The speed paradox has been solved, and the stealth revolution is complete. But as we look toward the horizon of 2028, where the first operational squadrons will take flight, we must ask, in our quest to build the perfect invisible predator, have we created a machine that finally outpaces the human heart's ability to govern it? The sky remains empty, and the ghost continues its patrol silent and absolute.